The Washington Commanders just got amazing news about their two superstar wide receivers, Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel's status for Monday versus the Kansas City Chiefs. However, this video is not about either of those receivers, but the position is what I want to talk about today. I know I've said it on a multitude of occasions that Washington cannot be buyers at this trade deadline. They need to be drafters because we don't have a second round pick. We don't have a fourth round pick. But sometimes a situation arises that you have to throw your hat in the ring. We've made 3 significant trades so far, and none of them were for a 23-year-old potential superstar player. Brian Thomas Jr. is on the trade block, according to Diana Rossini. Let's talk about it. What it doing? What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's your boy Rio Robinson back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about the Washington Commanders. It's Saturday, October 25th, and we play the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. I'm not here to talk to you about that game or the status of our current receivers. I'm here to talk to you about a receiver that is one of the best friends of our young star quarterback, Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas Jr. We know the relationship and the close bond and brotherhood he has with Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors. Well, a situation has come up in Jacksonville, and per Diana Rossini of The Athletic, formerly of ESPN and formerly covered the Redskins, they are taking offers and listening to phone calls on Brian Thomas Jr. First things first, you have to listen to this information with caution, because Diana Rossini be saying anything, and Diana Rossini be shooting from the field like Matt Gay shoots from field goal. So you never know if it's a brick, if it's something that she made up in her mind, or if it's something that's happening. But if you read the tea leaves of how the season's going for Jacksonville, and you understand that it has been a poorly run organization for a while under new management, they could be looking to get out of the Brian Thomas Jr. business. He's been dealing with some nagging injuries, and he's had a case of the dropsies. Lots of concentration drops on the season right now. But this would not be like trading for Deebo or trading for Tunzel or trading for Marshawn Lattimore. Brian Thomas Jr. turned 23 a couple weeks ago. Brian Thomas Jr. had a season last year that we ain't ever seen a receiver have here in a long time. He had over 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 87 catches as a rookie, with Trevor Lawrence throwing him the football. I like my quarterback better than Trevor Lawrence, especially considering Jaden's the guy that got this guy drafted in the first round of the draft. There's already a rapport there. There's already a chemistry. And with Deebo turning 30 next year and as an unrestricted free agent, with Terry McLaurin, who will be on his age 31 season next year, Washington is in search of their incumbent or successor number 1 wide receiver. And despite the struggles in the health of this year, Brian Thomas Jr. is surely a number 1 wide receiver type. He is a height, weight, speed demon. He can go up and get it. He's a possession guy. He can do something with the ball in his hand. He is what Washington needs. Here's the thing. Washington does not have the assets or the draft capital to acquire such a player, or do that. Adam Peters may need to get creative, and he may need to pick up the phone and call old James Gladstone out there in Jacksonville and take advantage of a young general manager, because while I don't think we should be buyers at the deadline, this is an acquisition that makes sense. We've been playing wide receiver musical chairs for the first 7 weeks of the season. We have a wide receiver room full of uncertainty and old ass people. AARP, well, not really, but you know what I mean. Chris Moore, they treat him like he's young. He's 32. Terry, 30. Deebo about to be 30. Noah Brown is not a real person to me. And then we got Lane and McCaffrey. Brian Thomas Jr., Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane wide receiver room. Sign me up. But it would take some creativity. Per Diana Rossini, the Jags are listening to phone calls for their first round pick of 2024 because they need some defensive help. Hey, so do we. But we got some guys you might be interested in. Washington could get creative and combine the trading of a player. I ain't going to put nobody's name on the bullet, but we got a couple defensive players that could be interesting to a team like Jacksonville. And here's the thing. I know what the common retort's going to be. Rio, why do we want him? Is he clearly damaged goods if a team like Jacksonville wants to give up on him in his second year of his career? Here's the thing. It's kind of similar to Adam Peters taking over in Washington. They just hired this hotshot young general manager in February, James Gladstone. When you come in, you build a team in your vision. He hires Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen's system, and he didn't draft Brian Thomas Jr., and Liam Cohen's system hasn't necessarily been a fit for BTJ right now. So there's a world where he just needs new scenery, he needs new environment, and he needs a better quarterback throwing him the football and a more consistent one than Trevor Lawrence. He comes over here. One, Washington fits the bill of a trade destination because it's out of conference. Two, because we could probably throw a defensive player in the mix, but Washington doesn't have a second, doesn't have a fourth round pick. And I feel like a second would be the sweet spot to start a conversation for a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. But they should be trying to sell high, though. We remember what A.J. Brown netted, but A.J. Brown had already put together years of a resume when he was traded for a first and a third from Tennessee to Philadelphia. But this is a conversation that our front office should be discussing if he's actually being shopped. Like I said, you got to be careful with information coming from Diana Rossini because some of it just be concocted in her brain and she just be yapping sometime. But this makes sense to me. I've seen it. He's like bottom in the league. No, he's like the top of the league in drops this year. And he's dealt with some lingering things, but this is a 23-year-old 6'2", 215-pound receiver running a 4.3. Take the top off the defense, possession, go up, get it, slam dunk on the goal line type of receiver. So why shouldn't Washington at least pick up the phone and say, hey, Gladstone, you didn't draft this guy. Build the team in your vision and send him our way because our quarterback needs a young incumbent wide receiver one sitting behind Terry McLaurin. And you're never going to have to sell to me acquiring a player that just turned 23 years old with the upside or potential of Brian Thomas Jr. Could y'all imagine that receiver room? Think about it for a second while we hear a word from our sponsor. The NFL season is here, which means you have a chance to win 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy. Football has never been more exciting than it is with players like Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Jamar Chase. Pick on stats for these stars like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more. For up to a 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right and you could win big using promo code RIO91. That was promo code RIO91 and you'll get up to a $100 match bonus on your first deposit. Terms and conditions may apply. Now, let's be realistic about it. Washington probably doesn't have the compensation to make a move for a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., but it's always worth having the conversation. It's always worth kicking the tires. And the trade history so far, Debo has been a very good signing for us. Laramie Tunsil, it looks like a top 10 left tackle in this league, a top 5 to 7 protector. He hasn't given up a sack on Jaden or Mariota all season so far. Home run hit so far. So I'm not upset with that. The Marshawn trade is where you start scratching your head a little bit. But what those three guys have in common, they're all north of 29 years old. They're all 29 or north. You should not have to be sold on getting a wide receiver that our quarterback's already accustomed to, who went for about 1,300 yards, 87 catches, and 10 touchdowns in his rookie season. That's a first-round pick who's dealing with some dropsies, but he's still on pace to have he's still on pace to have a pretty solid season. He's still on pace to have around 1,000 yards or so this year, especially if he gets it going now. He's been dropping the hell out of the football. He's been alligator arming some shit. Some of it is Trevor setting him up, but a lot of it is just him dropping the football. And he's dropped some balls in some tight situations. We see the same thing with Malik Neighbors. As all world as Malik Neighbors looks, he will drop a pass in a tight moment. but you live with the ebbs and the flows when it comes with talent and it comes wrapped in a package like Brian Thomas Jr. 6'2", 220 that runs 4'3" is not, that can jump out of the gym. That's not something that grows on trees. That's not something that's readily available or that you could just go sign in the offseason. And I know the dream for Washington fans has always been Malik Neighbors, but considering he was drafted in the first round by a division rival, we will never be able to touch Malik Neighbors. But Jaden got a best friend that plays for Jacksonville, and they may be shopping him, per Diana Rossini of The Athletic. So I'm curious. Let me know in the comments below. What would you keep in mind? We gained a 6th rounder this offseason. We don't have a 2nd. We don't have a 4th. What would you give up in a trade for Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars? 6'2", 215, 217, 4'3" receiver who put up 1,200, 10 touchdowns, 87 catches as a rookie. He has 365 yards and a tug so far this year, has dealt with some injury things and some dropsies in year 2, but the sky is still the limit for a guy that our quarterback knows, loves, and would target often if he was wearing burgundy and gold. Drop in the comments below what you would give up for a player like Brian Thomas Jr. I said we should be drafters, so we cannot be buyers. We should be sellers. Well, you could parlay and combo the two of them, because we could sell a player and some picks to acquire a talent like Brian Thomas Jr., and I'm all for it. Let me know in the chat what you think below. Hail to the Washington Commanders. I am so glad that we're getting Debo and Terry back on Monday. Go get him some company and go bring BTJ home. We need to save our guy. We can't save Neighbors. We can come get you, BTJ. You just need a new home. You need some TLC. You need to get back with your bestie on football fields on Sundays. That's all I got for right now. Talk soon. Hail to the Washington Commanders. Have a blessed weekend, everybody.